All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the March 24th Budget Committee meeting. I want to welcome everybody who's joining us live and in person here, and also anybody watching on YouTube. I want to welcome everybody back, and I'm going to call the meeting to order, and we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good to see so many familiar faces in the room tonight. I don't know that I remember the last time we had all 9 of us here in one room, but it's good to have everybody here, that's for sure. I do want to do a quick welcome to our new and returning members. So I want to say congratulations to Mr. Taylor and Mr. Hayes for getting reelected. So congratulations to both of you. Congratulations to Mr. Bork for joining us. And then also congratulations to Mr. Leary and Mr. Cutter for rejoining us as the Board of Selectmen rep and the school board rep. So good to have everybody here. We're going to move to review and additions to the agenda. Anybody have anything they would like to add to tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on to a somewhat awkward special recognition, but we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Mr. Leary prior to our town vote, and we felt like it was a good opportunity to honor the service of Mr. Cutter and his time as an elected budget committee member. As things turned out, he's still here with us for at least another year. But we felt it was a good opportunity to acknowledge him for his service, again, as an elected budget committee member for 9 years, 6 of those as chair, 2 of those as vice chair. And so I will let Mr. Leary, on behalf of the Board of Selectmen, present that to Mr. Cutter.
Yeah, just a quick little ditty about Mr. Cutter. My first... What?
Nothing.
You know where it's going, right? My first encounter with Mr. Cutter was 3 years ago, and he kind of ripped me a new one during a meeting. And we got through all that, and we became actually pretty good friends. And I was up at town hall with him when he was trying to decide where he's going to put his services. And I remember his wife just saying, "You don't have time for this. You don't have time for this." And he just kept saying, "You know what? It's the town. It's Litchfield. I have to do this." And so that should tell everybody right there where his intentions lie. I think he's going to be a great addition to the school board. We're going to miss him. So that being said, Town of Litchfield, New Hampshire, presented to Andrew Cutter in recognition and appreciation of over 9 years of service, loyalty, and dedication to the Budget Committee in the Town of Litchfield. Thank you for your service, Litchfield Board of Selectmen 2022.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cutter.
We're missing right here. It's on a different side of the table. That's all.
I told him I noticed he walked in tonight very light. The laptop, it felt like he has a different aura about himself. But, all right, moving on. We are going to move on to our reorg. Just for everybody watching tonight, kind of the way we started the meeting was with the sitting vice chair facilitating the meeting, and then we will go through a reorg and hand over the meeting to the new chair from there. So I'm going to start with nominations for chair.
I'd like to make a nomination for John David Sun for chair.
Second.
Wow.
Nomination and a second.
A lot of seconds. A lot of seconds.
Any other nominations? All right. We'll see none. Thank you very much. We'll do we actually don't have to do a roll call vote this time. We actually have everybody here. It's kind of nice. So we'll do all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? I will abstain. So that passes 8-0-1. Thank you all very much. Forward to working with all of you. So thank you. Appreciate the support. Move on to nomination for vice chair.
I would like to nominate Scott Taylor for vice chair.
A nomination for Mr. Taylor
I'll second that.
and a second.
I appreciate the nomination. However, with my work schedule and travel, I don't feel like I can put the time and effort needed into the vice chair, but thank you very much for the offer.
Then I withdraw.
As long as Mr.
Nomination.
Sun's not ever absent, it'll be fine.
Nomination withdrawn. I will make a nomination for Ms. Stevens.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bork. Any
Accept the nomination. Thank you.
other nominations?
Nope. I think Ms. Stevens has done a great job on this committee.
Thank you.
This is probably not the year for me to do it. It doesn't mean next year won't be a different story.
All right. Well, seeing no other nominations, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? So that will also pass 801. Congratulations, Ms. Stevens. All right, we'll move on to committee member assignments. First one on the list is social media archivist. Stevens, I know you have held that in the past, as have I. Any interest in continuing that, or anyone else interested in taking that on this year?
I don't mind doing it if nobody else is jumping the gun to grab onto that one.
See how quickly people jump. Seeing a lot of jumping. One might land back with you.
That's fine.
All right.
Yep, I can
You're
do
good with that? Okay. We don't have to vote on those. Is that, I mean, they're committee member assignments. I don't think those have to be voted on, right? Yeah. Congratulations, Ms. Stevens. All right. The next one is budget committee rep to school board facility committee. I'm interested in that. I have served on that last year.
I'd be interested, but I don't know if you want to continue doing it. It's up to you.
I am interested in continuing. I did have a conversation, actually, as a part of the last school facilities meeting that we had yesterday. One of the things that came up had to do with representation on that committee. The school board currently does have 2 members that are a part of that group, Ms. Ames and Ms. Harrison. The question was asked if the budget committee would like to have 2 representatives on that committee. I think considering the gravity of the work that's potentially on the plate for this next year, I said I would bring it to this group. I am interested in continuing with that as well. And it sounds like Mr. Bork is also. Is there anyone else that's interested?
I'd be interested in being on that committee, actually.
Okay, Ms. Douglas. So we have 3.
Are those meetings typically at 4:30? Is that? the-
Yeah, those
3:30?
and yeah, just for you, both, I guess for everybody's awareness, those meetings are every 2 weeks, and they do typically meet from 3:30 to 5:15 on Wednesdays.
3:30, yeah, I'm doing a school pickup.
I know. I did that is the normal meeting times. They're every other Tuesday, 3:30 to 5:15. You do have the opportunity to join them virtually, which I have done. I did yesterday because of a work conflict. Does that change your?
I am going to be, it's not compatible with my school pickup, no. Which sucks. 'Cause
Well, if there's no other interests, we will move forward with Mr. Sun and Mr. Bork.
Was there talk of making those recorded meetings?
So I actually have during the update for the school business, I was going to speak to that. That is one of the things that was talked about yesterday was communication moving forward. And the plan is to have those meetings televised moving forward.
Great.
Yep. All right. The last member assignment, budget committee rep to the select board's capital improvement planning committee. I know in the past, Mr. Cutter has served on that from the budget committee's behalf, and I know you're continuing that role now with the school board.
I'd love to continue that if possible.
Mr. Bork.
What time do those meet at?
Oh, probably 2:30.
6?
All right, then I'd like to get considered for that one then. I can do 6.
6. Well, it should be once a quarter.
You may as well do-
It's not very often.
So we have 2 people that are interested. Any other interest? That is 1 representative from this committee. Is that correct? We do not have the opportunity to send 2.
Right.
We do need to vote on this. Trying to figure out the best way to do this. I guess let's start with,
Usually go with the first person that
yeah,
passed.
Mr. Bork. So
If
we'll
that one
start.
passes, then it ends. And
It brings up a really good point because I actually did have a conversation with Chairman Weber recently to ask about the process for this if it came up during this meeting. The conversation we had is there's really not an established process. to me, the fair thing to do is that both people have an opportunity to be voted on by everybody, right? We go through one and we go through two. If the first one passes, we shouldn't preclude the second one. I think that's for any of these. That gives everyone the opportunity to vote. Is everyone comfortable with that? That's my opinion. I don't want to.
But we
I'm
wouldn't
comfortable
vote
with
for two, we'd vote for one.
Correct. We
So
would.
Whoever
therefore,
gets the
if
higher vote.
Whoever
majority
would get-
went with number one, we would not move on to number two.
Say that again. Sorry.
If the majority went with the first candidate to be voted on, and the majority voted for him or her, then we wouldn't move on to the second one. It would be,
That was the conversation that I had, and I know that has been past practice, but since it's not a motion per se where we're amending a motion, it's more of a nomination. I think we have the opportunity to say, who would we like to nominate? And so Mr. Bork was first. If Mr. Bork received 5 people supporting him, then if we used that process, we would not vote for Ms. Douglas. I think the fair thing to do is we vote for Mr. Bork. We see how many yeses he receives, and we vote for Ms. Douglas and see how many yeses she receives.
Right.
Whoever has the most, assuming it's not a tie, would serve.
yeah, first in would be voted for first.
Correct. Is everybody comfortable with that?
I am.
All right, so we will start with Mr. Bork. We're going to do a roll call vote on this just so I can keep track of it, okay? So this is a nomination for Mr. Bork to be representative to the Select Board's Capital Improvement Planning Committee. And we'll start with Mr. Barca.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens. Mr. Taylor.
No.
Mr. Bork.
Well, it seems that this board abstains when it becomes their vote. Is that correct?
Yes.
It's a proper way to do it.
Well, you can
be-
vote
to be-
yourself, but I'm just saying that it sounds like that's where this board.
Past
operates.
practice, yes. If it's about you, you abstain.
Then I'll abstain.
I will vote. We'll vote no. Mr. Leary.
No.
Ms. Douglas.
Is it appropriate for me to abstain or can I vote no?
It is totally your right to do either.
I would vote no, but I don't want it to be considered a conflict. So I will. I don't know what
Proper
the,
to abstain.
I will abstain for lack of conflict.
Mr. Cutter.
Yes.
Mr. Hayes.
Yes.
So we have 4 yeses for Mr. Bork. We will vote for Ms. Douglas in the same fashion. Mr. Barca.
Yes.
Ms. Stevens.
It's too late to ask questions, isn't it? I gotta say no. I'm sorry, Karen.
Mr. Taylor.
Yes.
Mr. Bork.
I'll abstain.
Mr. Sun, I will say yes. Mr. Leary.
Yes.
Ms. Douglas.
I will abstain.
Mr. Cutter.
Yes.
And Mr. Hayes. No. So that is 5 yeses from Ms. Douglas. So we'll have Ms. Douglas as the Budget Committee rep to the Capital Improvement, Mr. Bork on the School Board Facility Committee, along with myself.
Your first meeting is on April 4th at 6 o'clock.
Yes, I will reach out to Mr. Brown. I already had a conflict because he bumped us out of this conference room for a scouting event. So I will reach out to him, but I appreciate the votes. Thank you and the consideration. I look forward to joining the committee. Subcommittee.
All right. Thank you all. That was fun. Let's move to public input. There is no one else in the room with us. I will close public input and move to our very lengthy list of correspondence. This correspondence was shared out as a part of our agenda, although I did add a little bit to it since the town vote. So I will run through this as quickly as possible. It has also been shared with Mr. Sullivan. On January 7th, the Budget Committee received the BA report from the school. Also on January 7th, we received the draft budget hearing deck that was circulated to the Budget Committee. On the January 8th, there was a request for ratified contracts for the LEA and the LSSA, as well as salary and payroll information for the past 3 years. On January 9th, minutes from January 6th were shared with the committee. On January 11th, Ms. Douglas submitted questions on the LMS renovation project. On January 11th, salary information was shared with the committee. On January 13th, an email exchange on the budget hearing presentation and presenters. On January 14th, the minutes from January 13th were shared. On January 14th, the fire engine warrant article updated to include estimated annual payments. Also on January 14th, there was an amendment to the January 13th minutes that Mr. Hayes was virtual. Finally, on January 14th, the town budget report was shared with the budget committee. On January 17th, LMS questions were submitted from Ms. Stevens. On January 18th, the deliberative logistics planning email exchange, and that also took place on January 19th. On January 21st, the town budget report was shared with the budget committee. On January 25th, budget forms for signature were shared. January 26th, Town Administrator Brown shared the fund balance policy with the committee. On January 28th, the town budget report was shared with the budget committee. On February 1st, confirmation of deliberative on February 5th. On February 3rd, CIP meeting confirmation was shared. Also on January 3rd, Superintendent Jetty shared the LMS warrant Article 6 PowerPoint slides in preparation for deliberative. On February 4th, there was an email exchange on the deliberative slide deck and presenters. Also on February 4th, the town budget report was shared with the budget committee. February 7th, minutes from February 5th were shared.
I don't see those. Do those get distributed to the committee?
They have not been.
Okay.
So Mr. Cutter and I spoke about that before we started, and I'll speak to that when we get to the
Okay,
minutes. Yeah,
perfect. I
thank
just
you.
want to make sure I didn't miss something.
Yep.
Thank you.
On February 11th, the town budget report was shared with the budget committee. February 16th, the BA report was shared from the school district. February 21st, an LMS informational video was shared. February 18th, the town budget report was shared with the committee. March 4th, town budget report shared with committee. March 9th, Town Administrator Brown asked about the CIPC committee member representation for the upcoming April 4th meeting. On March 11th, the town budget report was shared with the committee. On March 15th, Mr. Sun sent the agenda and welcome information to new and returning members. On March 18th, the town budget report was shared with the committee. March 20th, Town Administrator Brown shared the Board of Selectmen assignments for 2022. And finally, on March 23rd, Town Administrator Brown shared communication from the SAU regarding school board reps to town committees. Any additions to our lengthy correspondence? All right. Moving on to our next item, review and acceptance of minutes. So to Ms. Douglas's point, on our agenda for this evening was review and acceptance of January 6th, January 13th as amended, and February 5th. The committee should have received January 6th and January 13th. I don't believe February 5th was shared with the committee. So I have those from Mr. Sullivan, and I'll share those out tonight. So we'll table February 5th. We'll review that in April. But for review and acceptance tonight, January 6th and January 13th. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from January 6th?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Douglas.
Second.
Second by Mr. Barca. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention?
Aye.
Okay. Carries 8-0-1. Have a motion for the January 13th minutes as amended.
So moved.
So moved by Ms. Douglas. I have a second. Second by Mr. Leary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
Abstain.
7-0-2. Thank you, sir. All right. And then February 5th, I'll disperse and we'll look at that on April 28th. All right. Next item on our agenda this evening is election results. So we've already congratulated our folks here this evening, but this is also an open opportunity for any discussion around the election results from this past March. It's an opportunity for any committee member, if any thoughts or comments, public comments they would like to make around the election results from March.
Is the town going to plan on buying the fire engines using funds now, or what's going on there? Or they probably can't now because it was
No
voted
means
down,
no.
right? That's right. Never mind.
Stay tuned. That's all I can say.
Their thoughts on election results?
I'd like to thank the voters for coming out, right? I was surprised most articles passed, including all on the school side. So as mentioned during the school board meeting, a week and a half or so ago, the LMS project, we're very grateful to the voters for supporting, and thank you again.
So my question to the board, I'm just curious if you've given some thought to I mean, I don't know how many articles the town had. The only thing that failed was a fire truck.
Correct.
Every school warrant article passed, every town warrant article passed.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering, as a budget committee, what you think of that?
I was pretty surprised myself.
Honestly, I think it came down to the fact that the budget committee couldn't recommend
Yeah.
a fire truck.
That's right.
That I think a lot of people in town place a lot of weight on the budget committee recommendation, and things that were recommended were passed.
But there were things that weren't recommended in the past.
Smaller price tag, maybe. I don't know.
What was
What
not?
wasn't recommended?
that was
Well,
the
like the
only one.
special meetings on the school side weren't recommended, but those still
But
passed.
we didn't vote for those.
Yeah.
The school board didn't recommend the budget. That
That's
was one
true.
thing that wasn't recommended,
But
but
the
the budget
budget-
committee did.
So, I mean, what items were not recommended by the budget
I
committee?
believe it was those, but you're correct, because they were not monetary, so you didn't vote
Right,
on
so
it.
we didn't, so nothing that was not recommended by the budget committee did not pass. So I think that it just shows the weight of it and how important it is to, that vote is.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I had a lot of people saying that that's what they looked at when they voted, and I think they place a lot of confidence in the work that we do.
And I think what helped the school out a lot was they put information out there. They were constantly feeding the public with information. I think that helped their cause tremendously. And, you know, good job by them for doing it. I mean, they answered all the questions.
I appreciate you calling that out, right? Because a lot of the times the school has been,
Mhm.
I mean, Mr. Burke knows firsthand, right? Has been called out for not sharing information, right? And in this case, they did.
No,
So
they did a
thanks for the
great job.
recognition.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna disagree on that one. But I do think that I was surprised at the relatively low turnout, honestly. We had 2 contracts, a fire truck, and a major school project, and our turnout was nothing to really be.
What's the total? 1,500 or so?
1550,
Yes.
thereabouts.
Oh, average for a
Which
March
is,
budget.
Yeah,
which
it's-
is very normal for a non-state, non-federal
But when we've
election.
had contracts before, we've had
Yeah.
1,700,
Yeah.
1,800, and I think that difference, so I would caution the whole strong voter support, because I really think there was voter apathy this time around. I think that if people weren't excited about all the stuff on the thing and still didn't turn out to vote, any one of those people going out there, that margin gets covered, lots of different things change. Lots of things change. So I was surprised at what I felt was a relatively low turnout.
I don't disagree with that, but you can't, I mean, the voters that did turn out. their
I
voices
agree.
were heard.
I agree. I don't understand why. Like when the number of voters, I was disappointed with the number of things on the ballot that more people didn't feel the need to make their voices heard. So for me, the story was more voter apathy. Guess things are good enough. People don't feel the need to vote, which is sad.
Any other thoughts on election results?
I think it was just a reminder that I think it was both the school board side and the fire truck side. Got to look at these things as if you've never heard of them before. So the fire truck, that I think you're right. People came in and just saw not recommended. Okay, but if you think about the fire, the presentation that we got, that the board of selectmen got, every single presentation, everybody's like, yes, this is a great idea. So I don't think the fire department got any pushback on the fire truck. But without going out into the public, they didn't really realize that people would have that many questions, because all of the boards, everybody was like, yes, this is a good idea.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought, because there was pushback on the LMS project. The school had, was kind of forced to do a lot more communication. And I think that I talked to a lot of people that I know were on the fence, and a lot of the information that came out in the last 2 or 3 weeks from the school, I think swayed a lot of people to see the need for it.
I think it helped them.
To remind ourselves that this is a bubble that we're in.
All right. Moving on to town business. I'll turn it over to Mr. Leary for any updates from the town.
We're going to do the Purple Heart dedication for the community at the Memorial Day festivities. We have the signs. We've got we're just waiting on the state to tell us that we can put the signs in on the state roads and the town roads. Other than that, I think everything went well with the elections, except for the fire engine, obviously, but kind of a slow time right now.
And new LED lights across town.
And new LED, yeah, they came in about a month ago or so, yeah. So
So,
it's nice and pretty. And the veterans got the flag poles in the
Right.
two cemeteries, which really is nice. It looks really nice.
so during deliberative, it was mentioned that the town is getting a significant amount of funding from the government.
Our fund-
Have we put together a plan or proposals as to where that money is going to be?
Again, I'll say stay tuned. Monday's meeting could be lively. Differing opinions on how to spend that money.
There's quite a bit of conversation
Oh, yeah.
about the fire truck.
Yes.
And I'm saying to myself, you can't do that.
Mhm.
It would be nice, but
Well, let's just say I caught some heat from my comments at the last selectmen's meeting, so I'm gonna quiet down tonight, which is unusual for me.
I just, in some ways, I think that had we had that money, that information in advance of the election with an actual plan, things may have turned out differently. And felt instead it was.
But we
fun.
don't have
Oh,
the
by
second-
the way,
We don't have the second half of it yet, so
no, and I do think that some of the people who were asking for a plan were a little ahead of where they should have been, and I think that didn't help your cause.
well, if it still holds true, originally was discussed at the capital improvement plan committee that that committee was going to more or less oversee and give suggestions of where to spend that money. Not to say that that's where the town has to look at, but they're going to look for input from the capital improvement committee to expend that money.
we do have some other town projects that are in need of some money right now, so.
Any questions for Mr. Leary? Additional questions?
I suppose I can ask the question since we're talking about the fire truck. Are they going to look into possibly maybe a used truck?
You know, I've been saying that for about a year now, and it seems to be new or bust.
Well, they came around on the fire station and having to compromise in order to get one, so perhaps sometimes something's better than, nothing.
I assume that will be a lively part of your meeting on Monday.
Maybe.
That was a fun discussion on a holiday Monday. I'm sure we can have another one.
All right. Moving on to school business. Mr. Cutter, any updates from the school board?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've had one official committee meeting in public. We had one non-public meeting yesterday, followed by a very short public session after, due to schedule conflicts with this particular room. The public session and that meeting in general was held at the CHS library. There was public in attendance when we went to public. So in terms of my first meeting with the school board, there was a lot of questioning about, governance of the board itself. So more to come on all that. But I think the message for the budget committee this evening is I'd like to continue to work on the relationship between the school and the budget committee, right? And I think the school board saw value in having me facilitate in this particular role for this year, especially with some of the items that we're planning on. So I'm thankful to be back, and I do have an alternate. My concern is just work scheduling as we get towards the end of the year. As you know, we meet weekly beginning in September. And so Ms. Hirschberger is my alternate in the event that that's required.
Yeah, and thank you for mentioning that. So I did have Ms. Hirschberger added to our budget committee email group. So when things are sent out regarding agendas and minutes and all of that, she'll be included on that as well.
Fantastic.
One other item, and I'll just lump this in with school business updates, is the facilities improvement committee. Ms. Stevens had asked about this earlier. So we did have a meeting yesterday. It was our first meeting that we had since the elections. We spent obviously a little bit of time talking about the LMS project. There is an April 20th close date for that. And they were able to lock in the interest rate of 2.325. I think they were very pleased with. The next part of the meeting was a lot of conversations around communications and regular updates to the community. Mr. Isbicki shared that starting the next board meeting, he will be providing a bi-weekly report on the project at school board meetings. That will be a part of kind of his standing agenda. And that also our school facilities meetings moving forward will be broadcast publicly as well. Normally those meetings are here, so I'm assuming LCTV will be a part of that. Trying to look regarding GMS. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about GMS because the architect and his team will be in attendance at the next school facilities meeting, which is April 13th, Mr. Bork, just so you have that date. And that team will give an update on their work and next steps. The final, really the end of that meeting had to do with, we kind of came back to communication and talking about how the school and the school facilities communicates as it pertains to social media and other things. I think there were a lot of conversations that started to get larger into more of a school board conversation. I anticipate that will likely be a part of you all's conversation coming up, just communication in general. But that is a school facilities update. Any questions around school facilities?
So since I'm sorry.
No, please go ahead.
Since you've gotten so much feedback about the LMS project in those past 2 months, was there anything else that was considered to be changed about the project, or is there anything currently? It's voted on, and that's exactly the project
So
that
that's
we're going with?
exactly the question. I wanted to get advice from the budget committee. And we had some conversation about it at the board meeting. And again, under the spirit of conversation and advice, does the budget committee feel Article 6 was a bottom line number, or do you feel the voters supported the entire plan behind that number?
I think anytime you vote on a warrant article, you're voting on what the content of the warrant article is. Such as if you, I'll go back to the fire truck, right? $900,000 for a fire truck. That's the bottom line. So they decide they're going to buy 12 police cars instead. That's not what the warrant article is written.
Yeah, fair point.
That's the way I look
I
at
think
it.
the spirit of it, anyways, they supported. Like you couldn't like drop the solar piece of it because I think people voted on those chunks of it. You know what I mean?
I have a different view on that, though. I think that during the elections, there were people who said that I think we need to look at this, and people voted for those people. And then I think there was also a consideration that people felt they had to vote for it, or the oil tanks were going to fail. So I have to accept the project as is, or the school district is screwed. So did they really vote for the solar panels, or did they vote to fix a problem at LMS? So I don't think it's a clear-cut call, because it wasn't each part wasn't separate and people didn't pick and choose. We were told if this fails, we have no plan for the oil tanks. So people felt they had to vote for it. Does that mean they automatically think that solar panels and dropping a backup heating system in New England is a good idea?
They voted for it.
But did they?
They did.
They voted for $4.95 million.
For the
Bottom
project.
line, just like we talked about last year, there is no strings attached. We vote budgets. It's a bottom line. It's up to the town, the school, however, to figure out as far as how they're going to get to that particular number.
And the reality
If they spend differently, that's up to them. But then shame on them if there's things that they didn't get done that is necessary to run a town or a school.
I think if the school wanted to be able to say they voted for solar panels, then that should have been a separate question. Instead, it was LMS needs work, and this is what we propose to do. And there were discussions that, well, maybe this needs some work here, but if we don't do, I don't think it was a clear-cut question. So I'm going bottom line. I really think that there were too many reasons. People had a variety of reasons for voting yes.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
I think
This
they
doesn't help me.
I think they voted for the substance of it. There was how many information sheets were sent out. It wasn't just the only question. And it wasn't only Facebook that this stuff was sent out either. It was mailed. Like every voter had access to this information. So they voted on that. And then, but there are certain things like taking the pipes out. Like if that wasn't part of the project, because you don't have to do the entire thing just because they approved it. But that was my last issue, was taking those heating pipes out. If we don't need to do that, I don't see why we would do that. Completely removing those.
I guess my question for raising it is, I don't know if there's an opportunity to get the work done and have savings to the taxpayer, right? I don't know that. But if we're saying, or the advice is that the voters approve the entire plan, then we run with the entire plan as is.
But you don't have to, on any warrant article that you can get, like they could get a fire truck approved and the Board of Selectmen could choose not to purchase it.
Yep.
It was approved, right? So I can see you can take things out of the project. I don't know that you can add things in.
But I
Like
think,
if it were to change to like a totally different heating system, and
Yeah, it was
that
the
would be
spirit
a
of the warrant article.
different, that would be different, right? But if you don't complete parts of the project, I don't see an issue with that.
I agree for the most part what you're saying, because I think a lot of the conversations that I had heading into the elections, people weren't asking the questions about the dollars. They were asking the questions about the content of the project itself. That was where the discussion centered around. And I think that's what most people voted on, whether they agreed or disagreed with the content of the project itself.
I guess if you take a look at other warrant articles, they're not held to specific details. Like if the town wanted to turn around and buy an electric fire truck, they could buy an electric fire truck. They just can't go beyond. Town voted, voters voted for an SRO. They didn't vote on where the SRO is going to be, how many hours, what they're going to do, and things of that nature. It's basically granting that, here is what we are telling you it's for, but there's no guarantee that that's exactly what we're going to do.
I think to Ms. Stevens' point, though, it's the essence of it. The electric fire truck is still a fire truck.
And I
a
don't
lot of
think
the stuff that the superintendent sold was getting rid of fossil fuels, saving money there. So that was a big part of the essence of it, in my opinion.
And I don't think the warrant article for the fire truck specified diesel, electric, or gas.
No, but the point is, it doesn't get into details on any of them. You are basically granting the town or the school to spend up to that particular amount of money to get such a thing done.
So I guess the question is legally, I think at the bottom line, whether you feel it's intent, that's a different thing. So
Yeah.
So legally, if somebody came up with a different design that was better or whatever, then you could do it. Whether people felt that they can deviate, that's a different discussion.
and that's a slippery slope, because if people get the impression that we voted for this, but they're doing this, down the road, that could hurt you. So I think openness and honesty is probably your number one policy to.
I think they voted for the content of the article and the capped amount of 4.9.
Mhm.
If it's less than that, that's fine.
Mhm.
But they voted for the project as it was specified and detailed and presented and pitched.
Did that answer your question?
Sure does. Thank you.
Now, is the 4.9, is that include the interest payment, or is the interest payment on top of that? Like the three,
Who
was it
knows? 'Cause
2.3
we
or
don't have an
3.2?
Annual.
Is that the total
The
cost of everything?
No, the total cost, I think, was 7.4
Mhm.
ish.
And what you're backing out of there are grants, ESSER funds, rebates,
Saving, the energy savings was
energy
back out of that
savings,
too.
those things. Yeah. I'm not sure the answer. to your
Energy
question.
savings across schools was backed out of it. So they're doing a lighting upgrade at CHS. They're using that energy savings that's already in the budget to offset.
There's some fuzzy math for sure.
That's some people have been asking for an annual schedule that we never got.
Trust me, there'll be a lot of scrutiny around the electrical.
I'm still curious as to where the 83,000 that they took out of the building, was it capital improvement fund, comes every year. What happens year two?
I think one of the things that, just tying it back to the school facilities meeting, I think one of the things that maybe to the essence of your original question of what was heard throughout the last 2 or 3 months, I heard yesterday during our school facilities meeting, the brief time that we did talk about GMS, that during Mr. Barker's presentation on the 13th, that he has already created a spreadsheet that is going to very detailed show cost of renovation, cost of new. And I think the goal is to hopefully be as transparent as possible and put as much of that out there as possible too. So I think that was something that was probably heard pretty loud from the LMS piece, that I think the school district is going to do a better job of showing that for GMS.
And to clarify, because they did put that annual cost out.
They put
It-
year
it's
one.
It's on the website. It's on the website.
Year
but they've
two
been
does not.
telling everybody to go to find out all this information here. It is.
Did you
there.
see the warrant article for the fire truck? Year 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
I'm just saying the
I'm just saying-
information is available.
The information that was presented by the business administrator includes $83,000 taken from the facilities capital improvement plan. What happens year two? Do we still take 80?
Go to the website and look.
Why should I? What? Give me the information. I've asked for it for 3
I
months.
don't have it on the
Well,
top
now
of my
you can
head,
have
but
it.
I'm telling you, they send it out and it's on the website. Just go look.
I had looked after you said that, and I still didn't find it. And if it's that difficult for me to find,
There were like
God
3
bless
links.
the people in town trying to find it.
There were like 3 documents on the website.
I agree.
Dan, it shouldn't be that difficult to find. You want me to vote yes? Make it freaking easy.
It was there. It was not overly intuitive to find. I found it finally. But I think moving forward, the goal is that that information is more readily available for anybody and everybody, not just people that can navigate the website.
Going back to a thing that you just said, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Parker, you're putting together a,
Not me, I don't
Oh.
think. No.
Oh, no, I
Sorry.
meant the architect.
oh, the architect. Okay, sorry.
I was confused for a second. I'm like, what?
Her with an R on the
Exactly.
end.
I
Not
heard
Mark
Parker
up.
too. I was like, really?
So as far as
He does have a new role that I don't know about yet.
as far as that particular table, so that's going to be renovate the existing, but the new option is just going to be what the architect is designing. So there's not really going to be a renovation minimum viable option and then whatever the school board.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the complete answer to that. What I do know is that the goal of this spreadsheet is to be able to clearly show here's what it would cost to renovate, and this is what it gets us. Here, on top of that, which obviously would cost more to build new, how much more we don't exactly know yet. But that way, people can take a look at it and say, you know what, I'm going to have to spend this in order to renovate, or perhaps I want to spend a little bit more in order to have a new facility. People will have the information laid out in front of them. That, I think, is the ultimate goal.
Are there minimum, and I use the word minimum loosely, requirements in terms of what is required for a school that is going to be considered as part of the project? Or is it just going to be whatever the school board and superintendent throw towards the architect and whatever the architect and designers
When you
Come
say
back.
Minimums is meaning what?
minimum,
in terms of what is the minimum requirements in order to put together an elementary school
square
that
footage,
functions?
square footage, and things like that.
But are we going to get a cost option of a minimally viable school?
So here's your
I don't-
basic box, right?
Right,
Here's a box plus a gym. Here's a box plus
right.
whatever.
It sounds to me
auditorium.
like we are going to get renovate, which could then at that point be manipulated to make sure that it looks super expensive for a renovation, and then Taj Mahal and nothing in between.
I don't know that I can tell you the conversations I've been a part of. I haven't heard anybody say Taj Mahal, but things that I've heard people say is they want it to maintain the historical aspects of Litchfield. They want it to have that agricultural community sense to it. I don't know that anyone that I've heard either on the school district side or people in town have said we want a Taj Mahal that towers over Charles Bancroft or wherever it might be. I think people want a functional space that is safe. It's a good learning environment, that we're not dealing with some of the issues that we are now at GMS, that, you know, is going to be there for the next 30, 40 years plus.
But there's no sugarcoating it, right? It's going to be expensive.
Yes.
Have we
Right?
looked, have we looked though at maybe reconfiguring to like a pre-K to 6 and a 7 through 12 instead of having 3 buildings, having 2?
We have looked at it.
Yeah, yeah.
And it got shut down because
It just not conducive to what our needs are. So you turn around and you build at the high school,
To add on to high school.
right?
Well, I mean, there used to be discussions about moving the SAU up here, which would free up a wing. Then our enrollment's gone down at the high school.
You
So
still need to build. It's,
I'm not saying you wouldn't, but you're not saying build a big new building. I'm saying you build 2 wings
okay, so you build for 7, for 8, and then where do you put the rest? Where do you put K through 6?
at LMS.
It wouldn't fit at LMS.
That's why it's a second edition. Like,
The only way to do that is if you build up.
but I'm just saying though, because then you have 2 sets of administration instead of 3.
You
You
can't.
have 2 bus runs instead of 3.
It's really being looked at there, too.
It seems like
Well,
we've
if you
always
build
been,
up,
we
put
need
solar on
3
top, it's closer to
without
the sun.
without recognizing that our school enrollment's gone down. Do we really need 3? Like, what other options have been explored instead? Because the original GMS was for a situation where we doubled in
I
size.
don't think anybody knows like the exact specifics of these answers yet, right? But allow me the opportunity to research.
No, and I agree. I like that, but I would like to know that we are considering other options instead of we're building a new school. No, well, you can build a new school, or you could look at other
We,
options
we
too.
probably spent about 9 months going through different options and weighing all the different options. We didn't just say, let's build a new school.
I
Spent
would
months,
love-
if not years already on this project.
I will say I attended one of the reimagining GMS sessions that had at least 5 options, if not 6 options that were presented
Mhm.
that a good 40 to 50 community people were a part of and had conversations around. It included renovations. It included adding on to current site. It included 2 options on current site, and it included not on the current site. There was a lot of good conversation and feedback around that.
And what I can share, and we're still under school, right?
We are
Yes.
still under school.
The board has not made a decision on this, but one of the things that I'd like to do is have more community outreach, right? And joining various community groups to be able to be a part of those conversations. We talked about being on their turf, right? And just having more informal conversation throughout the entire year and the entire process. Again, the board hasn't voted on that.
I think it would be
What was
good
it?
to get more conversation in because it's great to hear that we've discussed it. But to me, maybe that was before I even moved to town. Because all I've ever felt like is we get a new GMS, and I'm like, but why? What? How did we arrive at the decision? Who made that decision? And then it was made back when there was a chance that we could get state aid, which we're not likely to get. So how does that affect our decision? Just there's a lot of things that have to be factored in.
I
I
think
can tell you this, that they're planning for community input. In discussions we've had, there's going to be plenty of meetings and plenty of opportunity for the community to come, give their thoughts on it, ideas. There'll be plenty of time,
And I think also,
plenty of meetings.
I think also building off that to Mr. Cutter's point too, like the goal is to go out where people are too. We talked a lot about the 55 plus communities, ensuring that representatives of the school are there. They're having conversations, they're listening, and they're getting feedback there.
And I think that's wonderful. And I'd love to see it start early because I know for me, hearing that a project has been in design for 2 years and you hear about it 3 days before a vote, kind of puts a crinkle in it.
I don't want to
So-
put the cart before the horse,
No, so I'm
right?
saying it'd be great to encourage the school board to involve more of the community so there's more buy-in and people feel more comfortable about it before it's too late to make any changes.
That's the truth. I think the next pressing matter and immediate matter is if we do go down the new building route, where would that new building be, right? Especially given where we landed with Article 8.
Correct. I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunities this year for great conversations around a new school or GMS as it currently stands. So always welcome the spirited conversations here. Anything additional for the school? Any questions for Mr. Cutter? All right, moving on to member input and new business. I do have a couple of items on there for new business, and then we'll open it up for any additional member input. I did share with the committee last week 2 items in addition to the agenda. The first was a draft budget calendar for the 2022-2023 year. Keep in mind these are draft. The goal tonight is to just look over this, ask any questions, conversations. It pretty much mirrors a format from last year, especially when we get into the town and the school portions. I know Mr. Cutter would like, if we agree this is the general direction we want to go, Mr. Cutter would like to take this back to the school board to ensure their buy-in on it. Obviously, Mr. Leary, ensure that Town Administrator Brown and Board of Selectmen are good with the town budget meeting schedule as well. But any questions or conversation around the draft calendar for this year?
Quick question.
Yep.
As far as the layout that you put here, is this similar to the original we had last year, or is this considering the couple of meetings that we were able to cancel out because we were able to get through everything?
It is similar to our original schedule, and then if we get through things specifically like around the school, like the 10th and the 17th, or the 1st and the 8th in December when we're voting on the school, if we work through some of those items in one evening, we wouldn't necessarily need those dates.
Or you may want a date if there is a new building being
Correct.
proposed with the debate that's
Correct.
anticipated.
Yeah.
So I think it's just too early.
far as start times, we would continue with 7 o'clock. Assuming I know that works best. I think that works best for everybody here. The only time we might deviate from that would be when we get into some of the school meetings in November, and we can have conversations about that as we get closer to make sure it works with everybody's schedule. But any questions on the draft calendar?
I'm not going to be able to make the April 28th meeting, but I don't think there'll be much substance there. So it'll be okay.
So, Mr. Leary, if you could take that and ensure that works with Board of Selectmen, Town Administrator Brown looks good on their end, Mr. Cutter with the school board. And then when we meet on the 28th, then we will solidify this as our calendar for the year. Okay. And the second item for new business is our bylaws. So I did attach those for your review. We do have to adopt our bylaws for this year. I believe it is on or before our June meeting. Is that correct?
Yeah, I believe it's late May.
So it would be, we would not have to adopt it at our April meeting, but I think the goal would be by our May 26th meeting, we would want to adopt these that would include any proposed changes to them. So certainly if anyone wants to have any discussion about these tonight, we can certainly do that, or we can have that during our April meeting.
Did you make any changes that you can tell us about?
I did not make any changes. No,
So it's like it was last year?
It is exactly like it was last year.
That's
Correct.
good. I'm good.
No proposed changes at this
Yeah,
point.
bylaws, we can't vote this week.
Yeah, we'll
We
vote.
next week.
We'll vote next month on them. If there's any
If that is
proposed,
waived, you can certainly. do it.
Well, that's true, but we have some new members who haven't had a chance to make their proposals.
yeah, I'd like to let.
I know them inside out.
Oh, okay. So if there are
I
no
was here when
changes,
we were writing them, so.
that's true.
as
Well,
Mr.
we've
Cutter
had it like
added.
the social archivist, I think, added since then, so you can see.
We did add that. That might have been. That's the only addition I know of in the last 2 years.
Well, it has a nice list of amendments, so we can always check just those.
We'll give everyone an opportunity to
Fine.
re-look it over.
Hey, I'm willing to vote too, but because I'm a rule follower, we need the amendment, the nomination proposal next month.
We'll do it in April. It should be quick and easy. All right. So with that, we'll open it up for member input. Any other additional member input for this evening?
Just want to reiterate again that I'm looking forward to working with the budget committee in my new capacity, and hopefully we can keep it as transparent as we always have. And just know that I'm here if there are questions. And as a part of that, I know one of the things that has been consistently asked for are expense reports from the school. I've already planted that seed that I would like to see that regularly on a monthly basis.
Yeah, we used to get our administrator reports on a monthly basis.
Who's the school board chair this year?
Tina. Ms. Harrison. Yep.
Any other member input? I'll just say I'm looking forward to working with all of you this year. It's great to have everybody here in the room, like I said earlier, and see everybody's smiling faces. So thank you all for a good evening. And again, congratulations to everyone for being here this evening as well. So if there's no additional member input, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So made.
Motion by Ms. Douglas. Do I have a second? Second by Mr. Leary. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Smack it.
And we are adjourned.
All I'm gonna
Our
say is,
next
I
meeting.
am gonna love these kind of meetings.
Our next meeting is Thursday, April 28th, 7 p.m. right here.
We'd be
Thanks,
on
everybody.
hour 3 right now.